Welcome to the Muddied Waters of Freedom with your hosts, Matt Wright and Mohammed Shaker.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the Vanguard. For Mohammed, I didn't come up with a nickname, Shaker. This is Matt Wright, and together we are traversing the muddied waters of freedom. Welcome back, buddy.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I want to deport everybody from all the Yankee states out of Florida.
Yeah.
I was going to make a post about that, then I decided I'm going to save it to make that comment on the show.
Yeah, I like that.
But everybody from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, any other state that's up there, they need to get out. We're done being your tax haven. I'm sorry, man. There are a lot of rude people here from the north. And I'm like really starting to notice that, and it's getting on my nerves. People always wonder why people can't drive around here. Well, it's because we got all these assholes from New York. That's why nobody is able to get around in this goddamn state. Got almost hit maybe 2 cars today, and people are doing this because they don't know how to fucking drive. I don't get into accidents, man. I've never been into an accident.
I've been in one, but it wasn't my fault.
Yeah. It was probably somebody from New York.
No, she was from here, but...
Her family's from New York.
Yeah. This is that time of year where...
Daniel's from New York.
That's fair. Yeah, this is that time of year where you get all the people down from up north, and they're all awful, and they take up the roads, and they take up all the good parking spaces.
Except for Daniel Klein, because he's a great guy.
And he lives here year-round.
Yeah.
I mean, Daniel Klein's essentially a Floridian.
Yeah.
But, yeah, this time of year, it's like the blue hairs are all down, and they're definitely making their presence very well known. Definitely making their presence well known.
So Daniel Klein says he did come here for no income tax. That happens to be the case for a lot of people that move here. I don't know if I talked about this on the show. I know I did with somebody in person. Florida's technically the tax haven for a lot of the New England states that have like a shit ton of taxes. It's the reason Florida gained 5 million people, mainly from that area, mainly from New York, really. 5 million people moved here over the last 10 years. And that's because people are trying to escape all the taxes, which makes sense. Also, it's the same case with Texas. A lot of people from the West Coast moved from California, Washington, Oregon. Well, to an extent, Oregon, not as much. But Washington and California, they move on over to Texas for the same exact reasons.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Tennessee, same thing.
Yeah.
You get a lot of people moving down from higher taxed areas because there's less tax there, and then they vote for higher taxes, and then they wonder why.
Yeah.
Why it continues to get worse.
And that's why they should leave.
Right. That's one of the many reasons.
If you're one of those people, anyways.
Mainly, I just want you to go because I don't like my traffic getting worse.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the schooling thing. Anyways, so we're going to start off today's show with, believe it or not, economics. My favorite topic. So a bunch of my friends had shared this article. Which I was surprised because it's from NPR.org, written by Dean Baker, who is a self-proclaimed leftist centrist economist. Anyways, the article was published July 19, 2012, titled Six Policies.
Wait, the article's from 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh. I saw that article going
I would
around.
say it's still relevant. But
it is still relevant. I just saw it going around a lot over the last week. And
yeah, same here.
I was just surprised that it's from 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Six policies economists love, in parentheses, and politicians hate. And probably just people in general that don't understand economics hate. And I just thought we should talk about some of these points. Most people agree with about 5 out of 6 of these. And I'm sort of 4 out of 6 of these. The first policy mentioned is eliminating the mortgage tax deduction, which the tax reform that the Republicans are pushing right now, are coming with actually a cap on mortgage tax deduction. So you can, it was like $1 million, and they're going to cap it down to 500,000. And one of the reasons he mentions it in his article is, and he was conflating here. He said we should eliminate the mortgage tax deduction because the rich benefit more from it, even though it's more of a percent. It's a flat rate, so it depends. But he was basically saying how the middle class and the poor pay for this tax deduction, which he did not cite that in his article at all. But unless something is actually made to pay for something else, then tax deductions are always good. So I'm actually okay with mortgage tax deductions as long as they're not actually being funded by something else. Less taxes is always good. Let people keep more of their money, no matter what, how much money they make.
I agree with that. I wouldn't say eliminate the mortgage tax deduction. I would say eliminate taxes. But, as long as the tax deduction isn't being funded by something else that somebody else is paying for, I don't care if it's there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, when somebody brings up how a tax deduction is being funded by something else, it might not be. And if that's the case, then that's fine. If it's not being funded by anything, that's fine. Besides, I mean, if we're going to talk about the larger picture, spending is a problem, not taxation. But maybe I can get into that by the end of this if I have to. So I don't exactly agree with the first policy, but so the second one is tax deduction for healthcare, as in businesses that offer healthcare get certain tax deductions for that, and probably the same. It's probably the same reasoning for me on the first one. But what he was saying, which I agree with it, is he was saying that tax deductions for healthcare give businesses incentives for more luxurious healthcare options that employees may not need, and thus people would be using more healthcare services that they don't need just because they're there. And I can understand that. The thing is, I don't know exactly how tax deductions for healthcare work. Right. Because to me, that sounds more. I don't know if it's a tax deduction or a subsidy. That's the thing. I mean, if you're paying for healthcare, you're paying taxes somehow. So is this tax deduction a subsidy or is it a deduction? I mean, if it's like, hey, keep more of your money, again, I'm okay with that. Because there's more to healthcare than just people are using more services that they may or may not need, which is a problem anyways, because I've talked about that before. How the American culture is all about, I got a tummy ache and I'm going to run to the emergency room, take up a bed, and 20 people in the hospital now have to take care of you for your stay while you're in there. Yeah, that's an issue, but it's not the only issue. Number 3, eliminate corporate income tax. See, this one I definitely agree with, because we have the highest income
corporate income tax.
Yeah, the highest corporate income tax in the world, and it's a misguided attempt to basically tax the rich, quote unquote, which you're not really taxing the rich. I mean, if you want to tax the rich, then you tax people by income, not their businesses. But all taxes do is whatchamacallit. Taxes discourage the thing that is being taxed, basically. So, you have high corporate income taxes, which corporate doesn't just mean big businesses. It could mean incorporated small businesses as well.
Right.
Like there was that article recently that came out with a bunch of millionaires and billionaires that came.
Oh, the 400 millionaires and billionaires that wrote the letter saying raise our taxes.
Yeah, which is fucking bullshit.
It is. It is. It's like if you want to pay more taxes, just pay more taxes.
Exactly. No one's stopping them from doing that or donating to charity to help the poor. Like no one is stopping them. They can do that, and it's tax deductible to them.
The only way
if they want it to
the
be.
only way it's not tax deductible is if they just send more money to the government.
Yeah, exactly. Which I wouldn't do. If you really want to help people, then you can like start a nonprofit. You can start something like, I don't know, the Bill and Melinda Foundation and help poor people around the world.
Right.
Not that hard. But yeah, them saying tax corporations more or tax the rich more is really just them trying to hit the people that are in between us on the show and the listeners and them. So then they have less competition because people might just leave the businesses overall.
Right.
But yes, eliminate the corporate income tax. Number 4, eliminate the income and payroll tax. And it was just left at this, and I guess people complained because then they added an addendum in there. Is that how you say that? Addendum?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there was an addendum in there.
English is his second language, so he doesn't know how to say some words.
Yeah. And they were like, hey guys, sales tax would replace everything, which is pretty much what I would want. That's even a step more than like the fair and flat tax. So maybe that's just a fair tax. It's just tax people on what they're spending. Of course, no taxes would be preferable.
Right.
But I would prefer a tax on spending rather than a tax on income.
Yes.
You should be taxed on what if it's going to come to that, tax people on purchases, not on them working, because that's pretty much like slavery. So number 5, this is the one that nobody really agrees with. It's the carbon tax, and so obviously this is for like environmentalism and all that. And I don't see how this could work, especially when we're all putting out carbon, so I have no idea how we could go about doing this. I mean, if you really want to have less carbon in the air, kill yourself. Number 6, legalize marijuana. Probably the most important one on this list. We've spent at least over $20 billion, from what I remember, fighting the war on drugs. Maybe more, actually.
I was going to say it's got to be more by now.
Yeah, no, it's in the trillions now that I think about it, because it's been going on for decades now.
It's been going on since 1972.
Yeah. Which one of our local state senators, Jeff Brandis, was talking about this on one of his posts, I think this morning, and somebody made this like silly argument. It's the silliest argument I always hear from people in general when they talk about private prisons and the amount of people in prisons and the fact that people are in prisons, and we don't really have private prisons in Florida. But the private prisons don't make laws against using marijuana or really all these other offenses that put people in jail, aside from obviously like bodily harm and hurting somebody. The government does that. The government puts these things in there. Whether it's a private prison or not, they're the ones that make these laws and put people in prison and jail over them, not the private industry, whether it's supposed to be a thing or not. Like, I'm personally, this is not what do you call it? socially acceptable, I guess. But I'm okay with private prisons because I think private prisons are not the problem. The problem is the government.
See, I'm not a fan of private prisons.
I mean, I'm not either, but the government is the one that puts people in there.
Right.
Private prisons don't have their own police that lock people up.
That's true.
These laws existed before prisons got privatized.
That's true, but at the same time, a lot of times private prisons will have in their contract that they need to stay 90% filled, which means that they are prosecuting people that probably shouldn't be in jail just in order to keep them filled, in order to meet their contractual demands.
I've heard that before. I've never looked it up, but I feel like their prisons would be full whether or not that was in there. We've always been throwing people in prison for relief. So I sincerely doubt that clause is enough to keep, these prisons full. Because what about states like, here? What about states that only have public prisons? I mean, the same laws apply everywhere. It's the same law being applied in all 50 states. And you've got people being arrested for marijuana in 40-something states.
Right, 40 states-ish.
Yeah.
40-ish states.
Yeah. So it's not like private prisons need that.
Right.
It's already there.
I mean, I do think that the entire criminal justice system needs to be revamped.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons I don't like private prisons is because of that.
Yeah. But I mean, you can abolish private prisons for whatever reason. You'll still have people in prison, though.
Yeah, no. I mean,
that's really my argument.
You're always going to have people in prison.
Yeah.
But if it was something where it's the taxpayers are paying for each person that's in the prison,
mm-hmm.
right? Which I guess we are now, even with private prisons. I'm not really 100% sure how private prisons work.
What do you mean?
I mean, the taxpayers pay for it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a public prison just run by a private company.
Mm-hmm. Just like how public roads are paid by the public, but they're private-owned companies that do the paving and all that.
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, really, there's no difference between a private prison and a public prison, it seems like. It's just one way there's a company making it, one way there's a government making the money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I just think that we need to revamp the entire system and get rid of... And get rid of a lot of the laws.
Yeah, and that's why we should legalize really all drugs, not just marijuana.
Yes.
Caleb
and I actually talked about that on Wednesday.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. But yeah, so those are the 6 policies. I don't know what your thoughts are on the 6 policies, or if you agree with me on everything.
Obviously, I'm against the carbon tax.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 100% on board with eliminating the corporate income tax and eliminate the income and payroll tax.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want the sales tax, but I think it's an easier, much more manageable way to do it, and it would get rid of the IRS, so that way you lose a lot of red tape, so you don't have to worry about that.
And the thing is, it would help out people don't understand, this would help out the poor and the middle class
so much.
A whole lot more, because
so much.
A lot of us, depending on the person and the family, don't spend a lot of money on unnecessary things. Some families really just focus on saving their money to better their family in the future. So if you instead make a sales tax rather than an income tax, a lot of these families will be able to save a whole lot of money that they're not going to be going out and spending on stuff like the upper middle class and the rich families are. And that's a good thing.
Right.
When we're talking about helping the poor, this is really, really one way to help the poor out. So yeah, and okay, so so one thing I did want to talk about too is because I was having this. I think this started from
I want to do a preface on this one.
Yeah.
Back when I was working on the Overby for Congress campaign,
mm-hmm.
He was in a debate with David Jolly and Alex Sink.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, they got to ask each one got to ask one question. And he asked this question to Alex Sink,
Mm-hmm.
and she couldn't answer it.
What the difference between welfare and socialism?
Yeah.
Oh.
He's like, what's the difference? He didn't word it that way, but that's what the question was. I can't remember how he worded it exactly, but that was what the question was.
Yeah.
What's the difference between welfare and an entitlement was what he said.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's because I don't remember what I posted. I posted something that had to do with this. And some of my friends that call themselves socialists or democratic socialists or whatever, did not know the difference between welfare and socialism. And it's important to always, no matter what, like lay down the definitions of words ahead of time. And that's really, honestly, a lot of times it's really also a trick to keep control of the way the dialogue's going. But if we can agree on the definition of the words mutually, then at least we're on the same page when it comes to that. Which, when it comes to that, a lot of once I explain this, a lot of democratic socialists are like, well, I'm not a complete socialist. I like welfare. So this is socialism. Socialism is the state or the workers, depending on how you want to look at it, because it's workers is like such a nuanced word. Workers could mean the local socialist party, you know, kind of like how Hugo Chavez did in Venezuela. That is actual socialism. So socialism is nationalizing private companies, industries, so on and so forth, abolishing private property, some or all, and having price controls, such price ceilings, price controls, so on and so forth. This is a socialist economy. So when people talk about like Denmark, Sweden, Scandinavian countries, basically Bolivia, and even the United States, when it comes to your roads are socialism. No, they're not. That's not socialism. Welfare. So welfare was a response to socialism in the late 19th century, pushed by Otto von Bismarck. And if you don't know history that much, that's about the time that the Holy Roman Empire / Prussia and all that fell apart. Well, not fell apart. They all just joined each other and made themselves the German Empire, which ended up obviously being Germany after that. But yeah, so welfare was a response to socialism, which was workers controlling the means of production and blah, 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 to welfare, where it's the state provides you with a safety net. And that's all it is. Taxation is not solely a socialist policy. Taxes are taxes. Welfare is welfare. Welfare is not innate only to socialism. And now this is not in support really of like I'm not trying to support welfare or a huge welfare state, but it's really important to lay down the definitions for these words, because if you just conflate both of them, then you can call a lot of things socialism, and that's just not true, though. You can't. That's just not true, though. Like, the military is not. Okay, hold on. I was gonna say the military is not socialism. It depends. I mean, the government does have a monopoly on the military, but there are private military contracting companies.
The USPS is
Yes.
not socialism
No, yeah, it's not, because you
pay to use it.
Yes. Well, on top of that,
I mean, granted, they do bail them out every year, but
Mhm.
I mean, so technically, I guess they get bailed out by taxpayer dollars. But
well, it's not just that. The USPS would be socialism if UPS, FedEx, and all these other companies were abolished, and any sort of business in that field would be banned from ever operating. That would be socialism.
Right.
So as in, private companies cannot compete. The FDA is socialism because the government has complete monopoly on that sector, and no other private company can do food testing and drug testing and all that. That is socialism. If you have that's really the key difference. Do you have private competition or not? Do you have private property or not? Also price controls, obviously, which we have on some stuff. But yeah, so Scandinavian states, Bolivia and all that, not socialism. Those are big welfare states paid for by taxes. You have taxes in capitalist countries. So that's really what I wanted to really harp on when it comes to this. Cuba is socialist. North Korea is socialist. China is mostly socialist. They're slowly coming out of that. They've been becoming more and more and more sort of state capitalist is usually what people call it, because you still have to ask the government. So it's still sort of socialism, but it's still sort of capitalism. But it's mostly socialism. Venezuela is socialism. They all have welfare.
Real quick.
Everybody has welfare, yeah.
We haven't talked about this on the show yet. Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so everybody knows that they're going through a food shortage,
Mm-hmm.
and that their president has been getting a lot of flack for gaining weight during this food shortage.
Yeah.
But my all-time favorite thing is that when he was doing a live television address, he pulled out an empanada and ate it on live TV.
In front of everybody.
During a food shortage, he did that. And I was just like, wow, that is ballsy right there. That doesn't make a lot of sense for a leader to do. Oh, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
It's just, that blew my mind. But I've watched that video like 100 times because I find it so just hilarious.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet. But I think I will after this. I had something on my mind that I just completely forgot. So let's just move on. The silliness. Yes, silliness here. So I don't know if anybody saw this.
I think everybody saw
I know a lot
this.
of people have, yeah. And like, I didn't jump on board with it when it happened to Marco Rubio. I did not. I didn't care. But so CBS, I did jump on board with who's our congressman again? I always forget his name.
Our Congress, Dave. Oh my God, what is his name? The former governor.
Yeah, former governor. So our former governor that is now our congressman. He's the one with the fan, right?
Yeah, he's the fan.
I jumped on board with that because that was hilarious.
Yeah, that was funny.
But yeah, so CBS wrote an article about Donald Trump drinking water twice.
Okay, and personally, here's my thing on that. If you're watching us, you're going to see what I'm going to do. If you're not watching us, then you'll just have to try to understand. What I found hilarious about that is, he paused and he looked around the podium for the water, and then he found it, and he did this. He picked it up with it was a bottle of water, and he picked it up with two hands, and he...
Oh, yeah.
And he took a tiny little sip out of it, and then he put it down, and then he did the same thing again, and it's just like, dude, like, I know Rubio made fun of you about having tiny hands, but I'm certain you can hold a bottle of water in one hand. Like, that's got to be possible for you.
Yeah, probably, yeah. No, I remember seeing that.
Rubio's tweet on that
I
was
saw it.
Epic. That was so funny.
Yeah. He basically said, good effort,
He's like, bad form.
He critiqued it, yeah.
Yeah, bad form. You need, you can try again. That was so funny.
Yeah.
I don't even like Rubio, and I thought that was hilarious.
Mm-hmm. It's such a waste of, like, you really took the time to write an article about Trump drinking water.
Right.
Literally Hitler.
Literally Hitler. Trump is literally
Hitler. Drank water, too.
If Trump only... I'm going to totally steal this joke. Sorry, Dave Smith. If Trump only gasses 20,000 people, will they still say he's literally Hitler? I mean, he's going to be off by millions.
Yeah. That's funny. But yeah, and actually, let's sort of tie these two in, okay?
The welfare and the Trump and water?
Trump and Franken. the way media portrays things sometimes. So you have the media all worried about the Trump water thing, and everyone, not everybody, enough people were silent about Al Franken for a while, and then you have people coming out defending him, and that's the silly thing about this whole sexual allegation thing is people making it a partisan issue. You know, you'll see conservatives like,
it has become okay. I'm actually glad we're talking about this because Spike and I talked about it a little bit last week.
Mhm.
But you've got a lot of members of the GOP who were defending Roy Moore.
Yeah.
And, they were saying, oh, well, Joseph was an adult and Mary was a teenager. And, that is not an excuse. I'm sorry. That is not an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
If the allegations against Roy Moore are true, he needs to step down and the GOP needs to take that loss because that's what's going to end up happening.
Mm-hmm.
That absolutely is what needs to happen. But I have read 4 separate articles that say we need to give the Democrats who are accused of these things a pass because we would rather have sexual assaulters in there who are Democrats than any conservative. And that is just as wrong as the Republicans that are defending Roy Moore.
Mm-hmm.
And if Roy Moore's allegations are true.
Yeah.
I'm all for due process, and I still want, innocent.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
And innocent until proven guilty. Al Franken, though, there is a picture of him groping a woman while she's asleep.
Yeah.
He did it.
Mm-hmm.
100% he did it.
Yeah.
And he needs to step down and resign. And anybody who is a Democrat who's saying, oh, well,
Yeah, there's feminists defending him over it.
I know. I've seen the article.
They're like, oh, no, he apologized. I'm just like...
I don't
really
care.
What about what she has to say about it?
Right. She doesn't seem to care that he apologized.
Yeah.
No. He did it. There's photographic evidence of him doing it. He needs to resign.
Yeah.
And if it comes out that Roy Moore did it and innocent until proven guilty again, but found guilty.
I agree. Yeah.
Found guilty, he needs to step down, he needs to walk away and possibly go to jail. I don't know statute of limitations and all that kind of stuff, or if anything's happened recently.
See, if it's past the whole whatever the statute of limitations in on this, then I don't.
Careful, don't get our video deleted again.
Yeah, then then I think it's silly to blindly take people's word for things. If it's way past it, because how are you gonna? If you can't prove something, it's not. See, it's the Okay. Let me remember how this works, because this is sort of legalese. It's the preponderance of the evidence that has to be proven by the accuser, not the accused. So if this has happened, then yeah, they need to prove it more so than he needing to disprove it.
Right.
Yeah. So
the burden of evidence falls on the accuser.
yes.
Yeah.
And they should try to prove it, because if he did do something wrong, then we should know, and he will get out.
And I will say that the yearbook inscription is a little.
I've heard that. I had never looked at it or heard. It's a
little damning. I don't remember it word for word, but he was like, I don't remember Old Hickory House or whatever it was called. But in it, he was like, to a very beautiful and something young lady, you're gonna go places. You're really pretty. I don't know, something like that. And then he signed it. And then he said Old Hickory House. And I mean, granted, he made.
But there's nothing wrong with.
Well, he was saying he was saying he didn't remember being there.
Oh, yeah.
But he signed it in the yearbook.
Okay.
That was the part where it was like, he was like, oh, I don't know where that place is or if I've ever been there. But then in the yearbook, he wrote it. And yeah, there is the chance that, he was signing the yearbook and then he was like, wait, where are we again? And just wrote it down. Like, that could have happened.
But writing that down also by itself doesn't really mean anything either, though, right? I mean, who's? Because I don't know anything about this. I about this as in the whole yearbook thing. I only heard about that once, and I did not read into it. So what is this? One of the girls?
This
I
is
guess?
one. This is one of the girls that. This is one of the girls that is accusing him. He wrote in her yearbook something. Like you are a very to the prettiest and smartest girl here or something. I don't know.
But I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying that.
There's nothing.
No matter what your age is.
Right. There's nothing wrong with saying.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with saying that. The thing that makes it kind of like weird to me anyway is that she came out and she was like, "Oh yeah, I met him at Old Hickory House," and he goes, "I don't know what that is," but in the yearbook he wrote, Old Hickory House."
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, okay, well, you were obviously there. You signed this yearbook, and you said that you were at Old Hickory House. Obviously, this is a thing that happened.
Yeah.
Like, you were there. You can't deny being there at this point. So that's the part where I'm like, okay, maybe there's something to it, but like, I mean, still, it's so hard because we're so quick to jump on everybody. And I'm not defending him.
Of course not.
Even in the slightest.
No.
I have my own personal opinions on it, and I don't want to go into them here. I have my own personal opinions on it, but I think that him saying certain things like, "Oh yeah, I've never heard of the Old Hickory House. I don't know what that is," but then he signed it in the yearbook showing that he was there, is just slightly enough evidence for them to go, okay, maybe you need to back off and step out, and we'll just have to take the loss. Which I know that the GOP does not want to do that. The GOP does not want to take the loss because they're hanging on by a very thin margin, and if they lose that, they'll end up losing slightly more. They'll cut their lead in half.
I mean, something I saw somebody say about all this is, as soon as you get accused, you need to like apologize right away. But I don't completely agree with that.
I disagree with that.
Because if you didn't do it,
right, I 100% disagree with that. That's why I think we talked about this. I think it was with you. It may have been with Spike. I don't remember. But Jeremy Piven.
No, not me.
Okay. Jeremy Piven did it the way that I think it should be done. Because do you know who Jeremy Piven is? He's an actor. He was in Entourage, Ari Gold. And an actress that was on Entourage once, or on a series arc or something, accused him of sexual harassment. And he came out and he said, "This is vehemently untrue. You're lying. And this accusation takes away from people that it actually happened
exactly.
to."
Jack Laval did the same thing, by the way.
Did he?
Yeah, and I was like, look, if Jack didn't do anything like that, then I think that's the right way to respond. Not just lay down and apologize about it, because if you didn't do it, you didn't do it. Like, we shouldn't give power to people that may be using these instances as political expediency. And that's something I talked about a few times on Facebook is, what if I do run for office and maybe we're just looking at the future on what may be. What if I'm this popular minority right-leaning libertarian running in the Republican Party and somebody wants to bring me down by that?
They've got records.
That's fucking scary.
They've got records of all our shows, man.
Well, yeah. Well, no, but that's fucking scary. What if some random ass person that I don't even really know is like, "Yep, he touched me at Grassroots Kava House. He touched me at Low Tide." I'm like, what the fuck? I don't even know you.
I just want to go on the record right now that during these shows, Muhammad reaches under the table and touches me inappropriately.
Pretty much. It's free.
Yeah. But it's okay because I'm okay with it.
But no, to me that's super fucking scary.
It is scary.
That can happen to anybody. And I'm not, again, when I said, but fuck it, that's what I was talking about.
Right.
That I was talking about, yes, we should care about
I
these
like how you really
accusations.
condensed that entire statement into "but fuck it."
Well, that was the other show.
I know what
Yeah.
you were talking about.
Yeah.
But I like how you condensed it, so that way we don't risk getting anything deleted. That's what I meant by fuck it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like that's all I meant is, yeah, we should take sexual assault and rape accusations seriously, but
the burden of proof still lies on
it still matters. It matters in everything else. It should matter in this too.
Right. And it is the only crime. I got to think about this really quick before I finish the sentence. Okay. To what I can think of right now, it is the only crime where if somebody says it, it's believed to be true across the board.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except if you're a Republican, it's not believed by Republicans, and if you're a Democrat, it's not believed by Democrats. But
yeah,
either that or
that's
it's willing
true,
to be forgiven.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like if somebody comes out and is like, "Oh, so and so sexually harassed me," it is believed across the board. You can see it like so many people in Hollywood today. And I'm not defending anybody in Hollywood. Like Harvey Weinstein, definitely, I believe every single one of those. Kevin Spacey, believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Louis C.K. admitted it. George Takei
does not admit it.
Does not admit it.
That's what I was going to bring up too, is the whole partisanship thing. I've seen people destroy Roy Moore over this. And then I've seen the same people on George Takei's Facebook post, like being like, "You don't have to explain yourself to anybody." And I'm like, "What the fuck?"
Right.
Like, there's literally video. There's sounds. Maybe there's probably video too, because it's on what's his fucking name's show.
What's his fucking name?
The radio host that he was on when he said that. I always forget his name. He'll have like fucking porn stars on and all types of
Howard
people
Stern?
on. Yes, yeah. So this was on the Stern show. Did you hear it?
No.
He was on the Stern show, and him and some female, I don't know her name, I don't know what they were talking about. But then Howard says to George, "But you've never groped anybody, have you?" And then there's that silence. And then they're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa." Then they start laughing. They're like, You didn't grope anybody, right?" And then George says, and I'm paraphrasing here, he says, "Well, sometimes when a young man does not feel comfortable," it was basically about him like
Groping.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And even they on the show were like going around it, like trying to not make it sound like what it is, because it was what it was.
Right.
And George Takei is the same guy that was hitting Trump on his locker room talk from the bus tape thing. And I'm just like, okay, so it's locker room talk, which you're against. And now you don't want to admit to that because it's only a joke, which it may be a joke. It might be a joke. But, and I've talked about this on the show before, when people can't maintain whether they're going to, if something applies, it should apply to everybody, not just when it's politically expedient for your side or whatever. Same thing with Lena Dunham.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. She's...
Has anybody fucking went after her from the left? Nope.
No.
It's fucking Lena Dunham.
Yeah. No. No. Absolutely. I mean, you could go as far as saying, as Bill Clinton, who he did it.
Mm-hmm.
He did it.
Yeah.
He did it in the same way OJ did it. We all know that he did it.
Yeah.
And
Jack Hunter from Rare shared an article, I think that was written on Rare, about that. He was talking, whoever wrote the article was saying how Democrats should not be mad, and this is not in defense of anything that Roy Moore may have done, but he was saying Democrats should not be mad when Republicans today are using the same exact excuses, aside from the yearbook thing, should not be mad that the Republicans are defending Roy Moore in the same way and the same manner with the same reasons that they've let Bill Clinton get off on a lot of this stuff.
right.
And I was like, shit, I didn't think about it like that. But like, no, sexual assault needs to be taken seriously no matter what. It's not even a partisan issue, in my opinion, which a lot of people don't seem to understand that. Everybody makes it a partisan issue, but it's not. There are people on the right and the left that are guilty of it. Obviously, all of Hollywood is guilty of it, so it's good that they're able to take time off from raping each other to tell us how to live our lives. But aside from that, it's not a partisan issue, and the people that make it a partisan issue kind of tick me off, even though I strongly believe in the whole evidence and statute of limitations and innocent till guilty thing. No, if someone's guilty, they're guilty. But if someone's using it for political means, I'm not on board with that.
No.
And the sad thing is, it's for a lot of these things, it's really hard to prove some of this stuff.
It is, especially when it's...
Because it may have happened.
It may have happened.
Maybe they're all real. Maybe all of these are real.
Right.
And there's just...
And it may have happened, but, 40 years ago, it's hard to... It's one person's word against the other.
Yeah.
And, I've seen a lot this week on Herman Cain.
What, he raped some pizza?
No, he was accused of sexually... I want to make sure... I think it's sexually harassing women. But while he was running for president, reports came out of him sexually harassing people years before. And then after he dropped out of the race, all of that disappeared.
Really?
Yeah, you didn't really hear anything about it anymore. And so a lot of people are comparing the Roy Moore thing to the Herman Cain thing.
Somebody was talking about how, although that alone is not evidence enough of it not happening.
No,
but
it's
people
not.
were asking, where was all this before?
Right.
When he's ran for so many offices for
so
many years.
Why now when he's running for Senate?
Yeah.
And
the thing is, it does make you question it, though.
It does.
No matter what.
It does. And again, I am not saying that dude is innocent. I have no idea.
Yeah.
And if he isn't innocent, I think he needs to drop out and be prosecuted.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, why now?
Yeah.
And just real quick on this whole sexual assault thing, there was a report of somebody getting sexually assaulted in Hollywood that shocked the ever-living crap out of me. And that's Terry Crews.
It sounds familiar. I'm sure I know who that is, but I don't. I know the name.
Yeah,
I actually know the name this time, but I don't know who it is.
He's in the Expendables movies, and he's... I
can look it up while we're talking.
Right, and he was in Idiocracy. He was the president.
That's a black guy, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Him. Yeah, somebody, some dude sexually assaulted him. That is a gutsy guy.
Yeah.
That is a really gutsy guy, because I would be terrified to do that, because I would be afraid he would whoop the ever-living crap out of me.
Yeah.